What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about one of my favorite shows that airs on Shudder, and I've discussed this show multiple times on my YouTube channel. And the show I'm going to be discussing with you today is the Boulet brothers' Dragula. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Dragula, I was unfamiliar with Dragula before I got my Shudder subscription. And when I got Shudder and I'd watched it for a while, I discovered the show and thought it sounded absolutely fascinating. I didn't know a whole lot about the world of drag. My bare minimum understanding of drag as an art form came from Divine and John Waters films, honestly, prior to watching this show. And I feel like watching this show has grown my appreciation for drag as an art form and the amount of time and effort and energy put into drag and how incredibly talented these artists are. And on top of that, it being a celebration of the queer community and people from all different backgrounds coming from all different countries, and really just showcasing their art and doing it in such an interesting way, because there's obviously all different forms of drag out there. But the thing about Dragula that really drew me to the show was the horror element of it. I was really intrigued to see how horror could be incorporated into drag art. And this season is the 5th season of Dragula, which all of the seasons are available to stream on Shudder, and they're 100% worth watching. And what's been really awesome about the show is to see how it's grown from its infancy into where it is now. And I'm looking forward to talking about it with you today. I'm not going to break down every single episode and talk about my thoughts on each and every episode, but I'm just going to give you a general idea of this season, give you my thoughts on the season, and hopefully get you to want to watch it if you've never seen it before. So the Boulet brothers Dragula is led by the Boulet brothers, Dracmorda and Swanthula Boulet, who have been doing drag for a while now. They've been in the industry for a long time. They not only are some of the biggest faces in the drag community, but they're also huge in the horror world. They are well recognized in the horror world. If you see their faces, you know who they are. And they created the Boulet brothers Dragula, which is a drag contest where they bring on a specific number of competitors who week after week are designated these challenges where they have to create specific looks based on a theme. Sometimes they're individual challenges, sometimes they're group challenges, and every single week the artists have to come up with these really unique ideas and perform a stage show for the Boulets and 2 guest judges, which this season there were a ton of incredible guest judges on this season. It was awesome to see the people that showed up, and then Mike Flanagan showed up in an episode, Lauren Lavera from the Terrifier series, David Dasmalchian showed up, who is an incredible actor who I've really enjoyed watching his work. Kevin Smith showed up in this. I could go on and on. Matthew Lillard was in an episode. It was amazing to see the amount of guest judges they were able to get for this season, and every season they pull really amazing guest judges. And the big part about Dragula that makes it so exciting to watch is every week there are 2 people at the bottom of the barrel, and in order to survive and to continue into the next week, they have to do these things called extermination challenges, where they are put in situations that they have to overcome their fears, and whoever can survive and stick it out through the challenge moves on to the next week. So I was very excited to watch this season because I also listened to the Boulet brothers podcast, Creatures of the Night, which is an incredible podcast that Drac and Swan do with their producer Ian DeVogler, who is an absolutely hilarious and charming individual that really provides a lot to the podcast. And Ian works on the show, is doing everything on the show, stars in the show very frequently, and so he has a lot of really great insight into what goes on behind the scenes. And when they were talking about the show prior to its release, they were just talking about how excited they were and how it was starting to feel like the most fully realized version of the show, and how they were able to do a lot of things that they weren't able to do in the past. And I was really looking forward to seeing if that was the case, and it 100% was the case. Drac and Swan actually talked about on the podcast how this was their first season directing, and you can really tell that that is the case. I think whoever's worked directing their series previously has done a really fantastic job, and I think it's grown over the years to where season 1 was incredibly rough around the edges. You know that they were working with a very limited budget, but doing the best that they could. It's like the shortest season, there's the least amount of episodes, the least amount of interviews, and then just a jump jump from season 1 to season 2 was crazy, to see the amount of things that they grew upon and how much more they did with the show. And 2 to 3 was a drastic change in the style, the way that the show was structured. I believe season 3 was the first season that we actually saw the drag artists out of makeup doing interviews with the camera. And I actually really like that style. I feel like we get to know these artists as people and understand them and their backgrounds and where they come from. This season, the production value is fantastic. The extermination challenges in this season were some of the most frightening that they've done in the entire series so far. The very first one of the season, I'm sure that the contestants that had to take part in that were absolutely horrified. I know watching it, I was just like, I can't even imagine doing that. And I really love how creative and inventive the challenges are. And what's really great is you can tell how the contestants are often fearful of doing it, but they know that doing it makes them a stronger person and helps them overcome their fear, and that they're not afraid to take on any challenge that's put in front of them. I really loved the diversity of the cast in this season. We had people from all different countries and all different backgrounds. We had 2 drag kings on this season, which I feel like you don't get a whole lot of representation from drag kings in other forms of drag television art. And Landon Sider, who is a drag king, who was a performer on season 3, who is an incredible drag artist, was really my first exposure to drag kings in general. And so I thought it was really cool to see 2 drag kings on this season who were both fantastically talented, that really took me by surprise week after week. And as I said, I loved seeing the representation from all of the different countries where we got different performers from this year. The kill sequences, which if you're unfamiliar with Dragula, when someone gets exterminated, they get a death scene at the end of each episode, whichever person fails in the challenges. And the Boulets directing this year, you can just see their influences in horror on every single one of the scenes. They were so visually creative. The cinematography and the choices in the camera movement, as someone who reviews movies, I was really impressed with just how much time and effort and energy was put into all of those sequences. And I loved the visual style of this season. I just really think that they've perfected it. And I'm looking forward to, in season 6, which they're casting for right now, to just see how they expand on it, because I feel like every season they just get better and better with the visual presentation and the style of the show. And it was a really entertaining season to watch. I think this cast was really unique, because casts previously there was a lot of tension and a lot of emotion, and there were moments of that in this season. I feel like this season the contestants were really hyper focused on the prize. There was a lot less of like the internal drama. There were moments, and I think each season provides a new and interesting perspective into how these competitions are laid out. And I think having a variety of different personalities every season is what makes the show so interesting to watch, because some seasons you get really heated and intense competitors who aren't afraid to say something to someone else, and who aren't afraid to say, hey, I'm gonna beat you this week and you have no chance to beat me. And I like that, but I also like seeing the competitors who are like really in their own world and that are focused on the task at hand and just ready to win. And I really like how the Boulets focused heavily on like makeup application and the design process, and just kind of seeing how these artists work and how they craft things from scratch, and giving us just enough to kind of see the beginnings of where these looks come from, and then really focusing on the overall floor shows so that we as an audience, without being in the room with these artists, can see all the intricate details and the time and attention that's taken to all these looks. And my favorite part of Dragula is just the fact that the Boulets are giving these queer artists the platform and ability to showcase their art to the world. And I think it's so important, for queer people to be able to have a space and to be able to showcase their art and their talent. Drag art has been attacked a lot in the past couple of years, to where there's certain states where it's unsafe for drag artists to be able to perform. And I've been really impressed with the amount of drag artists in those states who are just like, hey, screw this, we're going to do what we want, and we're going to stand up for our right to be able to perform, and for our right to be able to express ourselves in the way that we want. And I love that about drag as an art form. It's something that I've really grown to enjoy. I love this show. It's one of my favorite shows on TV. If you have never seen it before, buying a Shudder subscription is completely worth it to watch every single season of Dragula, and I would highly recommend you check it out if you haven't watched it before. So have you seen the Boulet Brothers Dragula season 5? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this season was great. I thought the competitors were fantastic. I enjoyed the challenges. I enjoyed the exterminations. I just thought it was fantastic to watch, and I can't wait for the Boulets to put out season 6 sometime this year. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.